Madam Deputy President, I'm very proud to introduce the Wellbeing Indicators Bill as it goes to the heart of my views about our purpose as elected representatives to care for the quality of life of all citizens of New South Wales. As the Greens representative with responsibility across the human service portfolios, including family and community services, disability, ageing, housing and Aboriginal affairs, I have spoken in this place about issues affecting the wellbeing of people on many occasions. I also have an overarching portfolio, community resilience, which has coloured many of the issues I've worked on since entering Parliament. I see this bill as being a key platform for pursuing a future for our communities across the state that enhances the resilience of the people of New South Wales. This bill is about changing how we conceive of the purpose of government and of public policy. It's not about promoting particular policies or setting in place a specific set of constraints on how the government can deliver services, infrastructure and programs to our communities. It is about establishing a process for the development of indicators that can inform performance reports on how well legislation and policies deliver on the quality of life for the citizens of the state. The Wellbeing Indicators Bill seeks to broaden, clarify and establish a solid, shared basis for understanding what we mean when we ask how we are doing as a society and how the government is performing its role of caring for community. I note at the outset that the focus on wellbeing enacted by this bill is not to be confined to one specific department of government. This is about a whole of government, all of society approach to measuring, reporting and acting to achieve improvement in wellbeing. This is about changing the conception of how the government allocates its resources and determines its policy priorities. Instead of a government that is single-mindedly focused on how many dollars are allocated and how the funds are spent for each government agency, this is about establishing a measure of how well the funding and policies deliver outcomes. This bill envisioned a government that asks what allocation of its resources is needed to provide the best economic, social and environmental outcomes for the present and future quality of life of people in this state. This bill is a significant step for New South Wales to join a growing movement toward wellbeing measurement and reporting by governments and by non-government organisations in countries around the world. The contemporary wellbeing and progress movement extends far beyond the classic example of Bhutan's Gross National Happiness Index initiative that began several decades ago. It draws on the work done to build understanding and support about the need for wellbeing measures carried on by organisations like the Australia Institute and in the United Kingdom the New Economics Foundation through the development of the Wellbeing Manifesto. In 2005, along with nearly 10,000 others, I signed the Wellbeing Manifesto and endorsed its proposal of 9 areas in which government could improve national wellbeing, including the proposal to measure what matters by having national accounts of wellbeing that report on the quality of work, the state of our communities, crime rates, our health, the strength of our relationships and the state of the environment. It can be seen in initiatives such as the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development's Measuring the Progress of Societies project and Better Life Index, the Canadian Index of Wellbeing, in the work of Francis Stiglitz-Sen-Fizuzzi Commission on the measurement of economic performance and social progress, and many other local, regional, national and international projects. These initiatives aim to address the increasingly obvious limitations of a focus on narrow measures of economic performance, such as gross domestic product. These measures and our general tendency to focus on overall indicators of economic performance do not capture the full range of issues that affect the quality of people's lives. They can capture as economic benefits a range of activities that are actually harmful to people's quality of life or that deplete our natural resources and damage our environment in a way that puts the sustainability of our quality of life and our biodiversity at risk. And they do not reflect the distribution and inequality of outcomes within a society and an economy, which can be the source of social and economic disadvantage that harms the most vulnerable and undermines the strength of our capacity of our communities. The danger of defining our progress by gross domestic product was eloquently expressed as long ago as March 1968 by then US presidential candidate Robert Kennedy, when he told an audience at the University of Kansas that it counts special locks for our doors and jails for the people who break them. It counts the destruction of the redwood and the loss of our natural wonder in chaotic sprawl. It counts napalm and counts nuclear warheads and armoured cars for the police to fight the riots in our cities. It counts Whitman's rifle and Speck's knife and the television programs which glorify violence and in order to sell toys to our children. Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry and the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. The Australian Greens leader, Senator Christine Milne, recognised the need for genuine measures of progress in her speech to the National Press Club in September 2012 on how we build an economic system that serves the needs of people and nature, both for today and tomorrow. She made the case that we have to limit our use of GDP to those purposes it is suited and to measure our true progress as a nation with different tools. The Greens will redouble our efforts to support development of the best possible economic tools and work to see them adopted across government and society so we can build and measure the well-being of people and nature for the long term. In short, the Greens do not want to see growth, but growth in quality of life, growth in equality of society, and growth that plans for the future. Some nations' leaders, including those from Conservative governments, have recognised the same need to broaden our vision of how we should measure the progress of our society. 6 months after assuming office in 2010, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, David Cameron, directed the Office of National Statistics to develop and begin reporting measures of wellbeing. Since that directive, the UK Office of National Statistics has initiated a national public debate, produced a range of specialised publications and begun public reporting of detailed statistics that measure wellbeing. In Australia, the Australian Bureau of Statistics work on measures of Australia's progress, a project initiated more than a decade ago and enhanced following a public consultation process in recent years, has identified and presented a set of statistical indicators as well as highlighting areas that relate to our progress, but where gaps exist in the available data. The Age's economic editor, Peter Martin, reported in June that federal budget cuts had forced the ABX to axe the project, along with a range of other social and industry statistics, leading Martin to suggest that it's as if the government is navigating an economic highway while dimming the lights. Although we can hope that the federal government's short-sighted shuttering of independent measures of national progress will be reversed, the non-government sector is contributing to a push for wellbeing to be a key part of the national conversation about how we are faring. The Australian National Development Index initiative has provided a non-government directed initiative within Australia, and the networks and partnerships supporting wellbeing measurement in this country continue to grow. In July 2013, a collaborative project involving academic and government departments, along with social and environmental non-government organisations and peak bodies, released the report on their pilot project for Australia's progress in the 21st century, measuring the futures we want. The AP 21C project aims to provide a cross-disciplinary scientific foundation for measuring societal progress, to develop tools and information that will support informed policy debate and choices by government and the community, and to build a strong and effective national research network that connects to the growing global movement of measuring societal progress. In some especially important areas, we also see governments and non-government groups acting to measure and report in addressing key social, health and other outcomes. The national focus on limiting the shameful inequality of outcomes and opportunity for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people is assessed annually through reporting on Australia's government's Closing the Gap targets, along with the non-government Closing the Gap shadow reports. These are important initiatives to provide an indication of whether we as a nation are making progress and acting effectively to address the disadvantage and inequality that exists for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And I would suggest that we consider implementing state-based targets and reporting requirements as well for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And these could be incorporated into the framework that this bill provides. All of these moves to advance our understanding are crucial to improving the capacity to consider how public policy is affecting our society. But what most of these initiatives lack is any direct incorporation of those measures into government decision-making and public policy. Whether they are supported by government agencies or advocated by non-government organisations, most of the current initiatives for wellbeing measurement don't ensure that the relevant government or legislature will give consideration to the measures, using them to evaluate the performance of public policy or to develop directions for future legislation and policy initiatives. New South Wales has the opportunity to lead the way with a robust, evidence-based and transparent approach to bringing wellbeing measures into our concept of good government. This bill provides a framework that would ensure that in New South Wales, wellbeing is not only measured, but it's placed at the centre of government decision-making and accountability. It does not define how wellbeing will be measured. That is not a concept to be defined by any one political party or government. It must be based, as the growing body of research I've mentioned makes clear, on public input about the things that matter in people's lives and on the best available evidence about how these elements can be measured. Upon the commencement of the bill, a parliamentary joint committee on wellbeing will be established. The first task of the joint committee will be to conduct an inquiry into the definition, development and publication of wellbeing indicators, considering the broad societal values on which a definition of wellbeing should be based, the availability of data through existing government sources and any gaps that exist in the things we measure, and a range of other considerations. The Committee on Wellbeing is to report on this initial inquiry within 12 months. The bill establishes an independent statutory office of the Commissioner for Wellbeing, who will have regard to the inquiry's recommendations, but will then be responsible for developing, maintaining and reporting a list of the measures that indicate the wellbeing of people, communities and ecosystems in the state. The Commissioner's objectives will be to report on matters relating to wellbeing, to enhance knowledge and understanding of wellbeing issues and to encourage decision-making that promotes wellbeing. Every 2 years, the Commissioner will produce a Wellbeing of the State report, which assesses how we are progressing across the state and reports on any issues or trends affecting wellbeing based on the indicators. The Commissioner may also conduct inquiries and provide special reports addressing any specific issues relating to wellbeing, along with providing regular annual reports of the Commissioner's activities. In any of these reports, the Commissioner may make recommendations to the Government about matters relating to wellbeing, in which case the Treasurer shall provide a response to any recommendations within 6 months. After completing its initial inquiry, the Parliamentary Joint Committee will monitor and review the exercise of the Commissioner's functions, examine each report issued by the Commissioner, and may inquire into any issues relating to the functions of the Commissioner. This framework will ensure that the Commissioner is independent from government, but provides clear evaluations and advice, which the government will be required to respond to, about our state's progress in improving wellbeing. It will also ensure that the consideration of all issues and evaluations from the Commissioner will be examined by the Parliament and transparent to the public through the Joint Committee. Along with the independent statutory role of the Commissioner, the bill provides that government progress in addressing wellbeing will be addressed through the annual report process of departments and statutory bodies, including the Auditor-General's performance audits of any government agency, and into the Ombudsman's reports of investigations where conduct has been detrimental to wellbeing. These provisions will ensure that the links between public policy, government programs and the outcomes for this state are considered through a comprehensive framework based on the adopted set of wellbeing indicators. It is essential that the public is engaged in the conversation about the wellbeing of our people, communities and ecosystems. This begins with the public inquiry that will identify the values on which our notion of wellbeing should be based. But the Commissioner will be responsible for ensuring that the measures of wellbeing, current and historical, relating to the state as a whole and wherever possible, provide detail about the wellbeing of specific localities and communities, are made available in a way that's accessible to all members of the public. The Commissioner's functions will also include public awareness and education activities to support public authorities, local governments, non-government organisations and communities in considering and promoting wellbeing. Madam Deputy President, in this Parliament I've spoken about many issues that relate to the wellbeing of communities and ecosystems. I've made references to many of the challenges we face and the data that has been presented to inform us about how we can address these issues. These include deep and persistent disadvantage, the affordable housing crisis and the continued challenge of homelessness, the large numbers of children being placed in out-of-home care, and the alarming overrepresentation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children. The impact of climate change and coastline on people's lives and our environment, and the loss of biodiversity. The barriers to ensuring the rights of people with disability and older people to have equality of participation and choice in all aspects of their lives. All of these are factors that affect the wellbeing of our society. I have also spoken about the importance of targeted investment in early intervention and support services to deliver people's benefit to people's lives, to address risks and to prevent future burdens across society and government. All of these things are underpinned by the idea that our role as members of Parliament and the role of the government is to direct all our efforts towards improving the lives of people in this state, preventing harm to those who are vulnerable and at risk, and ensuring that we deliver the same or greater opportunities and quality of life to future generations. This bill will provide the mechanism to inform the Parliament and the community of New South Wales about the performance of Parliament, legislation, funding and policy on the lives of people. I will be seeking the support of communities across the state and consulting with all political parties and all organisations who work to advance our society and reduce the vulnerability and disadvantage across the state and promote wellbeing. I take this opportunity to thank David Mallard, who's here in the President's Chamber, who works with me and has undertaken the detailed work involved in preparing this bill. I commend the bill to the House.